Me and my ex-girlfriend Abby dated for about a year. She was into witchcraft, dark arts, spells, and all the sorts. I tried being open-minded about it, but I was a recently born-again Christian, and after a while, our belief systems didn't mesh, and ultimately that was what split us apart. I was the one to break up with her. It was messy. She cried and begged me to stay. She said she could change my mind, but I was already withdrawn from the relationship that I just didn't want to continue. Recently, after the breakup though, Abby would call me and text me every day to get back together. It would get so bad I had to block her number. After a few months from not hearing anything from her social media or friends, I came to the conclusion that she finally moved on. Boy, was I wrong. About 6 months after we split up, I started seeing this girl, Jamie. Jamie was over my house one night. We were having wine and watching a scary movie I rented from Redbox. We weren't watching much of the movie when there was a loud knock at the door. Who would be knocking this late at night? Frustrated at the interruption, I got up and went to the door. I looked out the peephole. Nothing. I opened the door and there was no one there. Just an empty neighborhood before me. I shut the door, pissed that maybe some kids were playing a prank. I walked back into the living room when I froze in fear. Someone had a knife pressed against Jamie's throat. She squealed and tried to break free from her captor, but they only pushed the knife further into her neck, threatening to break the skin. I begged and pleaded with the captor. Maybe they just wanted some money. That's when the person holding the knife to Jamie's throat hood fell off. And in the low light of the living room, I looked horrified at Abby. My fight or flight kicked in. Without pondering the consequences, I plunged at her, tackled both Abby and Jamie to the ground. The knife flew from her hand. I quickly put Abby in a chokehold and told Jamie to call the police. Abby didn't struggle or resist. While I had her in a chokehold, she was just murmuring something in a language I did not understand. When the police arrived 10 minutes later, they took our statements and put Abby in the back of the squad car. We found out later from the detective that Abby was planning on making a love potion to get me back, and the main ingredient was blood from her enemy, Jamie. I'm sad to inform you that Jamie and I stopped dating after that. She was too traumatized by the experience. Quite frankly, I don't blame her. I live in a studio apartment with just my dog. My ex came over last week. We've been casually hanging out, having some drinks. We haven't done anything sexual since our separation back in August. He came over the 30th. We were having fun, just mainly watching TV in my bed. At around 10 p.m., I'm almost falling asleep. He shakes me and says, "Hey, I'm a little hungry." I roll over and ask why he didn't say anything anytime sooner, and he explains he just became hungry. He asked me to make him something, and I apologized and said I was going to sleep. He gets up from my bed and says, "I'm just going to make something myself." He walks back a few minutes later and says, "I can't figure out how to work your oven." No, I have an old oven with 5 knobs on the side, one for each burner, and the far right one for the oven temperature. I walk back to my bed, and he's just laying in it. As I'm just laying back down, I'm just explaining how I'm confused how he couldn't work my oven. It's pretty self-explanatory. I close my eyes to go back to sleep, and he asks, "Are you seriously not going to cook for me?" To which I responded no, and turned back around. I felt a poke against my neck. I opened my eyes and remember thinking, why did he just poke my neck? Then looked at him, and he's laying there with a bloody knife in his hands. I put my hand on my neck, pulled it away, and saw all the blood. I immediately thought, oh, I see what just happened just now. I quickly ran to the bathroom, grabbed the towel hanging to press against the wound. I walked back into the bedroom, and he's just laying in my bed so casually. He was laying on the side of my bed, closest to the door, and put my phone in his pocket. I immediately began to apologize, stating that I should have never questioned him. He didn't notice I was getting closer to the exit. The second I got in arm's reach to the door, I grabbed it and ran to my neighbors. She called 911 for me. I was still holding a towel on my neck. The police came, and he got tased twice. It took 7 officers to hold him down. He was charged with 3 felonies and 4 misdemeanors. I can't sleep well. Always waking up thinking someone is coming through my door. When they were stitching my neck up at the hospital, one of the officers came in saying they got information stating that he stabbed my dog when I left. I'm just a mess right now.
When I was in the army, I broke up with one girl that I had met at a bar. She seemed pretty cool at first, but after the second date when we started hanging out at her apartment more often, she started to creep me out. She would follow me everywhere I went, and kept having suicidal thoughts if I ever said one negative thing about her. One day, after a really bad argument because I got tired of her stressing me out, right when I said the words, "We should probably see other people," she immediately quit making a sound and just stood there with a blank expression, not responding to what I said, making me think I might have broken her brain or something. So after a few seconds, I pretty much said, "Well, okay, I'm gonna take off." And right when I turned around to go to the door, she let out a freakishly creepy laugh, grabbed a pocket knife from the counter, and lunged after me, throwing me up against the wall and yelling, "You're not going anywhere." After spending a few minutes keeping her off me and pleading with her to stop, I made a decision. After she made a way too close to call swipe at my throat and quickly broke her wrist. This forced her to jump off me and she screamed in anguish. I ran out her apartment, stumbling the entire way until I could get to my phone in my car, locked myself in my car, and called the police. If that wasn't horrifying enough, when the cops came and saw the scratches from the knife on my face and the rips in my shirt, they walked in, put her in cuffs, and literally the entire time we were in view of each other, from the second they walked her out of her apartment to when they put her in the back of the cop car, she stared at me, giving me her same creepy grin from earlier and chanting, "I'm gonna kill you," in an almost inhuman voice. Once they got her in the car, one of the cops' partners walked up to me and said, "We're sending her to a psych ward for evaluation. Looks like you got lucky, kid, because God knows what she could have done if you haven't called us." I never heard from her again, and needless to say, I took a break from dating. Never in my entire life have I watched someone become completely unhinged like that before.